The scariest thing about these films is the reception they received. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be counting down the top 10 biggest horror movie flops.
I need you to wrap this now. Relax, everything's gonna be fine.
For this list, we're looking at horror movies that got murdered at the box office. Divisive films that received mixed reviews but still made money, like Darren Aronofsky's Mother, will not be considered.
Where's my baby?
He's not dead.
What?
A voice
Where is he?
still cries out to be heard. Loud and strong.
Number 10, Village of the Damned.
You all right?
Yeah. It was just a dream.
When John Wyndham's The Midwich Cuckoos was first adapted for the big screen in 1960 under the title Village of the Damned, it turned a respectable profit, earned critical acclaim, and even produced a sequel.
I can't believe it. This is not a matter of belief, Vicar, it's a matter of fact.
Sadly, none of those statements can be applied to this 1995 remake, which, considering it was helmed by filmmaker John Carpenter, is more than a little disappointing. Against a budget of $22 million, it only managed to recoup $9.4 million domestically, and was critically panned as uninspired, a paint-by-numbers remake without merit of its own.
We have to survive no matter what the cost.
The film went on to earn a Razzie nomination and has been called by John Carpenter, in hindsight, a simple contractual assignment, nothing more.
There's no need for you to become emotional.
Number 9, Alone in the Dark.
Will one of you tell me what the hell's going on here?
We picked up massive readings.
That's not what I asked. What the hell's going on here?
It was inevitable. At least one Uwe Boll film had to make the list. Of his many widely detested films, this video game adaptation is nonetheless a standout. Why? Well, for starters, its poor quality and loose approach to the source material enraged fans of the long-running video game franchise.
Carrying enough baggage for the both of us, trust me.
It wasn't just those familiar with the source material who hated the movie, though. Critics consider it to be one of the worst films ever made. With a budget of $20 million, it saw a return of just $10.4 million.
This isn't happening. It doesn't make any sense.
Unfortunately, it succeeded in the home video market and therefore got a sequel in 2008.
After all these years, I'm immune to witchcraft crap.
Number 8, Slither.
Hey, Kylie, why don't you tell Miss Grant that story about how I saved you from that deer?
Oh, yeah. Bill saved me from a deer. Oh, yeah?
Before he established himself as a major player in the MCU with Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2, James Gunn crafted this excellent little horror movie about a parasitic alien and its slug-like offspring.
I know you don't want to hurt me, Grant.
Funny, scary, original, and boasting a strong cast including Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, and Michael Rooker, Slither was warmly received by critics and horror enthusiasts alike.
It hurts, bitch!
Unfortunately, for whatever reason, people just didn't go see it. Though it was made on a modest budget of just $15 million, it slipped through the cracks and failed to break even.
Things like this happens to people all the time.
Number 7, Willard.
They're stirring up rats.
Well, have you been to the basement?
Oh, you know I can.
For the average cinema goer, Crispin Glover is probably most recognizable as the guy ripping out and sniffing hair in Charlie's Angels, or as George McFly in Back to the Future. But within horror circles, he's best known for his role in this underappreciated horror remake about a social outcast who befriends and trains rats. The movie wasn't exactly a critical darling, but it was still reasonably well received. Glover's performance as the titular Willard was particularly well met, earning him a nomination in the category of Best Actor at the Saturn Awards.
Sit down.
Now you listen to me, Willard.
Sit down!
Unfortunately, that didn't translate into ticket sales, with the box office falling $11.5 million short of its own budget.
And now you're trying to kill me.
No, that's
You never let me alone for a minute. You made a fool of me in front of everybody.
Number 6, Fear.com.
She was the first. Jeannie Richardson. He killed her on the fear site. He tortures his victims till they beg to die.
It was the early 2000s. The internet was past its introductory phase and was in the process of becoming the all-encompassing force that it is today. In other words, it was the perfect basis for a horror film.
I sent it in for repair.
Playing on the internet too much, right?
Yeah.
Though it bore similarities to technophobic films that preceded it like Videodrome and Ringu, Fear.com lacked the substance to support all the over-the-top violence. The movie is admittedly stylish at times, but not enough to overcome a fundamentally flawed script.
No, not this time.
A co-production between companies from the US, UK, and Germany, it cost $40 million and only recouped 18.9 of it.
Do you think he was right?
I never believed a word of it.
Number 5, The Rage, Carrie 2.
Does it bother you that some girl offed herself yesterday?
Honestly, it shouldn't have mattered that this movie was a blatant cash grab and terrible film. That's most horror movie sequels. Just by virtue of having Carrie in the title, this movie should have been able to turn a tidy little profit. Carrie is one of the most iconic movies in the history of the genre.
Are you sure that you're not still trying to save a girl that died 20 years ago?
Even with Amy Irving returning to her role as Sue Snell to create some sense of legitimate connection, the film was a pale imitation of its namesake, and cinemagoers could clearly see that.
We're all friends here! We're all friends! It's cool!
No, we just grew up together.
Despite coming from illustrious stock, Carrie 2 only managed to scrape together $17.8 million against its budget of $21 million.
Jesse told us to cool it and explain everything, so no hard feelings?
Number 4, Virus.
You are Virus.
This movie might just be the biggest sci-fi horror comic book adaptation you've never heard of. A whole line of toys was planned around it. The movie even had a video game tie-in in the works. With Jamie Lee Curtis in the leading role as Kelly Foster, it also had a viable lead to catch the attention of cinemagoers.
My name's Kelly Foster. I'm a navigator.
On paper, it sounded like an entertaining, albeit unoriginal premise. An energy-based alien lifeform comes to Earth with plans of conquest via human extinction.
Touch it again, I'll cut your hands off.
I can respect that.
The end result? Well, the visual effects were top-notch, but that's about it. The film was critically panned and earned just over $30 million on a budget of $75 million. Yikes.
They're planning to sink the ship. Of course, you know that, don't you?
Number 3, Grindhouse.
If you're gonna hire Machete to kill the bad guy, you better make damn sure the bad guy isn't you.
We can really appreciate what Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino were trying to do here. Grindhouse theaters of old specialized in B-movies and exploitation films.
And Nicolas Cage as Fu Manchu.
These institutions were cheap, dedicated, high volume, and provided a home to the sort of cinema that goes straight to video on demand these days. The concept of a double feature is also largely dead nowadays, but for nostalgic filmmakers like these two, it's one that still held appeal. Though cinephiles may have appreciated this throwback release, it didn't resonate with the majority of cinemagoers.
Brought to you from your friends at the Weinstein Company.
With a combined budget of $53 million, and despite solid reviews, Death Proof and Planet Terror only managed to recoup $25.4 million.
I am not one to be taunted.
Number 2, Psycho.
A boy's best friend's his mother.
This is another oddity in the history of horror film. Though remakes are common, updates usually try to reinterpret the material. When Gus Van Sant decided to revisit the classic Hitchcock tale of theft, murder, and mommy issues, he chose to show his reverence for the original by remaking it shot for shot, just with a different cast and in color.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Like with Carrie 2, you'd think that any remake of such a classic film would have guaranteed draw, but ultimately Van Sant's ode to the original turned audiences off, and only managed to earn back $37.1 million against a bloated budget of $60 million.
I hate to think about it.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few dishonorable mentions.
I've been living in there for weeks.
That's perfect. The only way to protect ourselves is to live in a box.
You've left religious thinking behind you, then? Oh, you're not comfortable talking about these things.
I don't know where we are.
Man, you sure know a lot about monsters.
Now that you mention it, I suppose I do.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Event Horizon.
Went to spacecraft,
passes through the gateway, space returns to normal. It's called a gravity drive.
This film has even become something of a cult classic within the sci-fi horror genre, but with a budget of $60 million and a domestic box office take of $26.7 million, it was a serious flop. With Jurassic Park actor Sam Neill and a pre-Morpheus Lawrence Fishburne on board, and a fresh-faced Paul W.S. Anderson in the director's chair, Paramount had big expectations.
You don't want to leave your ship? You never will.
At the time, Anderson had just released Mortal Kombat, which proved to be a hit at the box office. For his next act, he chose Event Horizon, and, well, after post-production hell, it didn't make it out of the black hole.
This ship has been beyond the boundaries of our universe, of known scientific reality. Who knows where it's been?
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.